Alright, I'm doing something a little different today. I just wanted to take a spin around this new world. Check out the Champs-Elysees real fast. It's one of the new courses for the Tour de France, and just check it out and talk about my thoughts on the virtual Tour de France in general. I'm pretty excited for the concept of it. It is weird now that it's like there's going to be a virtual Tour de France and a real Tour de France. Kind of takes some of the hype away from each of them in a way, but we'll see. I am glad that it spurred Zwift to make some new courses and some new worlds. It is strange that this course is in its own world entirely. It's kind of like Crit City, where this is just a single circuit that's not connected to anything else, and it's not even connected to the other France routes. So in the future, I mean, maybe I'm wrong here, but I don't see a lot of people just getting on this one to spin around, because it is, we got a little bit of a gradient here. Interesting. I've never been to the real Champs, so I don't know what it's actually like, but a little bit of a gradient there. The atmosphere is good with all the tents and the people, kind of like Crit City. But yeah, since this is like a standalone world with a really short circuit, I don't see a lot of people heading here just to do their normal training. I think it'll be more of a curiosity. Now, I could see this becoming a good circuit for racing. I love racing on the Crit City course. I think it's a really fun way to race. Even to do group rides, this might be a good spot, because you could do your group ride, and if people get tailed off, they can wait up and grab back on. It's a pretty short little lap here. Seems like it's a lot of cobbles, which I didn't know was the case, but I think a lot of people don't know the cobbles in Zwift. Actually, this surface is causing higher rolling resistance, which means that more of your energy is going into fighting the rolling resistance than the drafting. So on a course like this, it's going to be maybe a little bit easier to break away with this amount of cobbles than it would be. It's kind of like you're going up a small climb, in the sense that that balance between rolling resistance and aerodynamics shifts just slightly. Now, this isn't shifted quite as much as dirt, but there's also not a bike that specifically handles these cobbles way better. In the game anyway. So that could be a slightly interesting factor. One thing I would love to see is, maybe I'll flip these cameras a little bit just to get some perspective. Let's see. One thing that I would love to see Zwift doing. Ooh, interesting shot of we got the boats in the regatta. Boats in the water over there. That's cool. One thing that I would love to see Zwift doing is I would love to see more points based. I think one thing that Zwift can bring that other platforms maybe can't is Zwift could be auto tabulating points for a more complicated race series. If you're familiar with like the Hammer series in real life, they had I thought pretty cool but complicated points series where it was team based, so everyone on the team is earning points that go into one pot, and it would be short lap races where there's either points at the top of a climb every time, or points at a certain sprint line every time, or both. I mean, you could have a circuit that has two different finish lines of two different sets of points, and then that would create some sort of dynamics. But the interesting thing about doing something like that on Zwift is we wouldn't have to be tabulating that in our heads. You could have a visualization right here, the same way that we normally have the sprint leaderboards or something. There could just be a leaderboard, and every time you come through, let's say let's say this line I'm passing right here, that's a finish, and points go. This is where it could get really interesting. You could do something where points go 25% of the field deep, so the first fourth of the field gets points. That's something that in real life would be very annoying to score and very annoying to tabulate, and if you're on the bike, it would be too much mentally. But Zwift could do that automatically every time through. It would pop up like a sprint leaderboard and just assign, there's 100 people in the race, so the top 25 get points. And those values go down, and so then there's like a leaderboard that's auto-populating. The points just go in there, and it's like any other game. Like, a lot of people play, I don't know, first-person shooters or whatever, and there are points in those games, but people don't know off the top of their head like what each little thing is worth. But the game is calculating the points for them, putting it on a leaderboard, and you can follow the leaderboard and see where you are. And even if you don't know the exact point value for every move, you know what you have to do to get more points. Like a first-person shooter, you know that a headshot is probably going to be worth more points. Or, I mean, generally you have to go find somebody and shoot them, and that's how you get points. So in a comparable Zwift scenario, it's like you would just be looking to know where those finish lines are and get the highest place you can, or get your team the highest place you can, depending on the format. And I think a short but not so short, like not necessarily Crit City short course like this could be the kind of place where something like that would work. So I'm gonna get a look at this building here. Pretty cool. So that's just something I've really been thinking about, and that's something that Zwift has talked a lot about, providing things that you can't get in real life racing. And I think that's where they're going with boost mode. That's where they're going with the power-ups. I think this is an opportunity to provide a type of gamification that's not necessarily I think people would have less of an aversion to like a scoring system than they do to boost mode. People, I mean, I don't know that I want to race boost mode all the time, but I'm interested to try it, and if races have it and I can opt in or opt out of those races, I'm kind of down for it. That's whatever to me. But I know people have a strong reaction to that, and even to power-ups, there are a lot of people who say like they like RGT a lot more because it doesn't have power-ups. It's more true to life. I think this is a way that you could kind of split those hairs, and you could provide something that doesn't really happen in real life outside of maybe track racing. Even in track racing though, it's hard to follow the points. Even as someone watching it, you know, you have to know a lot of what's going on. Even with really good graphics work, it's not quite as intuitive as it could be on Zwift, because you don't have to have a person there scoring it and then graphics populating. It could be really, really watchable too, to have sort of a third-person view and stream something where different finish lines, different point values, and they don't even have to be finish lines. You could do a race where it's like time-based segments, like a Grinduro type format, but it would be more raceable because you're out on course and maybe you can see everyone right here. You can see everyone's times on the segment, so you know what you have to beat. So maybe you do it that way. You do like a Fondo. That wouldn't have to be on a course like this necessarily. That could be on your more traditional course. You could do like a Fondo style start with some timed segments, and those leaderboards auto-populate as people come through, and then everyone kind of knows what they're racing against, and you could have your GC calculated in real time. So whoever is the virtual leader, you know, whoever goes through that first segment and gets the best time has the jersey, and then someone beats it and that jersey pops over to them. I think that's the kind of thing that Zwift is maybe missing the boat a little bit on. But it's totally possible, and it seems like they're looking for new stuff to do. Yeah, honestly, outside of that possibility, I mean, I'll be excited to race on these new circuits, but I don't see the Champs being a particularly dynamic race circuit. I could be wrong. There was the little underground kick. I mean, maybe that becomes the new like the climb on the downtown Dolphin lap, and that's really hard. And then all these cobbles are really hard. It could go any way. I'm interested to try it out. I'm interested to watch the virtual tour. I think it'll be interesting. I think it's good that they're not going with speaking of points formats, it seems like they're not going with a time-based format. They're going with a points-based format, which I think on Zwift makes a lot of sense. You can get these, like the 3R Real Ride series, where basically who won the time trial is going to win the series overall because the times end up being so close. So many things come down to a sprint. Even if it's a reduced sprint, it's like 100 people start and 30 are in the group at the finish, but those are also going to be the 30 people who time trial best probably. And all the times on the rest of those races are going to be pretty much pack time, which maybe that shouldn't be the case. Maybe it should be splitting hairs down to the millisecond. But even then, to throw a time trial in, I don't know, it's still going to be too close. The time trial times are going to outweigh those tiny time gaps from the other races that come down to a sprint. Oh, we do have a little kick here. We got a little 3% here. So that's interesting. Maybe that'll play in. Maybe that'll do something. This is a really good looking circuit. I really like the look of it. Should be fun to ride. Should be fun to race on. But yeah, Virtual Tour France is going to be points based and short stages, which I think will be a lot more watchable. We'll see if it gets outside the normal cycling kind of communities. Maybe it will. It would be cool if they sort of promoted it in more of a gamer streaming type realm. I think if they sort of explained it that way and presented it that way, you could definitely find some more audience, because I think that the people who care about it because it's the Tour de France are going to find it either way. It's interesting that it's going to be on real TV. I mean, I guess any sports network is really, really hurting for some sort of content right now. But so they're going to be willing to go for it. But we'll see what it does. I'm excited for it. So yeah, here's just a little spin around the Champs. Hope you've enjoyed it. I'll give a couple more camera flip arounds just to take a look. And stay tuned to the channel. I'll have more France-related content. I want to do some in-depth comparisons between Mont Ventoux on RGT and on Zwift. This is the first course that's on both platforms. But yeah, I'll have some more of this France content up soon. And I'll put a race up here where I was racing with some Tour de France pros to keep the Tour de France theme going.